Football, a uniquely American sport. It defines so many young men's lives. It gives them a platform to build from, a place to learn, and a way to think about themselves and the other players around them.
Football is one of the great spectator sports, and part of the reason is it is a gladiator sport.
With the strategy, with the movement of the ball, all these things that make it such a beautiful game.
People do hit each other, and nobody wants to take that part out of the game.
It's the greatest teacher in the world if he stays, because he learns teamwork, he learns hard work, determination, competitive spirit. Those 5 points are the points that make a champion, and they make a champion football player, champion senator, champion president, champion corporate exec, whatever it is. The harder you have to train in life to prepare for something, the better person you become.
Hey, you run a route across the middle against this defense, you do so at your own risk with Cam Chancellor in
there. But now football finds itself at a crossroads. The physical nature of the game, the very thing that makes it such a great training ground for young men, is being re-examined and considered, and the effect on the sport is unknowable. The film you are about to watch is about much more than football. It's about strength. It's about overcoming. It's about everything the game of football is supposed to teach the men who play it. In towns across America, during the football season, the lights come on every Friday night. And our most fearless kids step onto a field with a level of violence that can shatter bodies, and for some cause them to never take another step. This is the story of one of those kids. How he turned tragedy into grace. This is the story of the Gridiron Heroes. What is football? Football is beautiful. Football is massively popular. Every Friday night in the fall, over 1 million boys, having survived a summer's worth of two-a-days, don pads and prepare to take the field. Every year, nearly 40 million tickets are sold to NCAA Division I football games. Last year, over 100 million people tuned in to watch the Super Bowl, making it the #1 rated television program of all time.
13 of the 14 highest viewed shows this year in television were NFL football games.
Football is an undeniable constant in the fabric of American life. And for many, football culture defines American culture. It's in our blood. It's in our kids. It's the great American sport. It brings us together. It tears us apart. It builds character and self-esteem. It makes men out of boys. It creates.
Football is the ultimate team sport. You have to be conscious that you got a responsibility to everyone.
I find the game to be very compelling. You know, a lot of lifetime relationships are forged.
But sometimes it destroys. Concussions, seizures, broken bones. And for some, their life is changed forever.
I think the game is a great game. Nobody ever wants to see anybody get hurt. Unfortunately, in football, people do get hurt.
Injuries can occur. They can occur. I can't soften that blow. No matter what I tell you, I cannot soften that blow.
There are moments when the violence embedded in the game can take an unthinkable toll.
Before the game even started, I was with my girlfriend at the time. I just had this weird feeling that something was gonna happen. She's like, well, why don't you not play? So I told her, I was like, I'm gonna play. It's our last home game. If we win, we go to playoffs.
The game was a special game. It was the last game of the regular season. It was a game that we needed to win in order to get into the playoffs.
My wife and I were at the game. Chris was basically having the game of his life.
I had a great night.
He was always the smallest.
He was about 125 pounds playing high school football, but his heart took up most of his chest.
I was having a really good game.
He made several touchdown saving tackles.
8 tackles, 5 solo tackles.
He had an interception in the end zone.
He had a sack. He was all over the place.
Unbelievable game, probably the game of his life.
Came up on that one tackle.
And then everything changed from there.
Midway through the fourth quarter, just a routine play. Running back cuts back, Chris is there.
He was going one way, I was going the other, and trying to do a touchdown saving tackle.
He goes in low, and Chris's head hit about waist high.
Everything just like slows down like you're doing a slow motion, going to 180 and just kind of fall to the ground. Then trying to get up, hearing the crowd go silent, and then seeing your teammates come to try to get you up and you can't move. And I knew right away.
When the doctor cleared the room and he said he had to talk to us, then the seriousness came about, and that's when we knew.
And the doctor told us and gave us the word
that Chris had broken his neck.
We were called into the room, and the doctor told us and gave us the word that Chris would be paralyzed from the shoulders down.
As Chris lay motionless on that field for 19 minutes, it became clear he was fighting for his life. Chris had suffered a spinal cord injury, and even if he survived the next few days, nobody in that stadium could have a true understanding for the challenges Chris and his family were going to face.
I think about the children that are paralyzed, these little boys, and I think about their parents. And I can only imagine the first thought is, I can't die now. I can't die now. Because who's gonna look out for him if I'm gone? That's what we're talking about.
We were not prepared for what we were gonna see. I think the reality of the injury and the seriousness of the injury really set home. And we just sat there and cried.
I still talk to kids on that team that are affected. by his injury. You know, they feel like it's their fault. There was 2 kids that missed tackles before he got to Chris. They feel like it's their fault. I had one kid that blew an assignment. He went the wrong way. He said, Coach, I should have tackled him. I went the wrong way. So there are several people's lives that were affected by that one play.
I just went down, work just shut down. I didn't want to go to class. I didn't want to do anything.
Because he knew, nobody knew what he was going through. We didn't know what he was going through.
You're first injured, you're like, you feel so useless that you feel I'd rather die than not be able to do anything, you know? You just start thinking about everything. You think about life in general. And then you think about what's life going to be further on down the road, being in a wheelchair and being paralyzed. So, I mean, there's a lot, when you're stuck in your room, there's a lot to think about. And if you don't get your mind off it, then you're just going to dwell on it. So, I mean, that depression will really eat you up.
From a 4-sport athlete with 3 college football offers to simply fighting to stay alive, Chris was being pushed to his mental and physical breaking point.
When I was in ICU, I flatlined twice.
We almost lost Chris on 3 separate occasions.
My graduation night, on one of the medications I was on, I developed 4 episodes of seizures in my brain. I was eating a piece of apple pie and it just went off, and I ended up choking and passing away for a little bit, and my dad revived me.
If the Lord had wanted him by his side, he had 3 chances to take him. He was here for a reason.
About a year after Chris's injury, he went to another football game.
My dad knew I wasn't doing too good with depression, so he took me to what we loved in football, and went to a state championship game.
It was the first time he'd really been out. And all of a sudden,
then we'd witnessed another spinal cord injury.
I called Eddie and said, "Did you hear that, someone else got hurt?" And he said, "We were there."
And they were at the game, and they watched the play when I hit the guy and broke my neck.
Seeing Corey Fulbright go down snapped me out of it, and the first thing I wanted to do was go help.
Chris told his dad that they needed to help us.
Chris told his dad,
"Dad, we've got to go help him. I know what he's going to go through."
It's really hard to get through this injury alone.
And so they started Gridiron Heroes then.
Chris had discovered his purpose. Through their own great tragedy, Chris and his father decided to reach out and lend a hand to those dealing with the impossible. But what could they do? They weren't doctors or therapists. What did they have to offer? Chris didn't have to struggle long for an answer. He offered himself, his heart and soul, his compassion and understanding. Eddie and Chris, father and son, formed Gridiron Heroes with a simple and powerful mandate: to help all those young men who go down on the football field with catastrophic spinal cord injuries. Chris and Eddie's goal is to help the football player and his family get through what will, in the end, be the most difficult challenge they will ever face. And before long, people began to take notice of Chris and Eddie's hard work. One of the first to support them was Red McCombs, philanthropist and entrepreneur, and former owner of the San Antonio Spurs and Denver Nuggets basketball teams and the Minnesota Vikings NFL football team.
Once you have a great tragedy, regardless what the tragedy is in your life, your minister is going to respond, your friends are going to respond, the family is going to respond, but there is no response like someone who's been there. And when you get a response from someone who's been there, you develop a brotherhood. There's no way around it. Percentage-wise, it's probably not going to touch your family, but then we all know that if it touches any one of us, it really touches all of us.
There's one thing that every doctor hates, and that is to be helpless, to do absolutely nothing for a condition like spinal cord injury.
When you get a disability, it happens to you as opposed to maybe being born with it. You don't get, just you doesn't get the disability. Everybody around you gets it. Your family, your friends, and that anger, you know, that we get and everybody goes through is something that, you know, a lot of your family and your friends feel too. They get angry that the fact that this has happened to their child or their brother or their best friend. And so it's a big deal, and there's not a giant guidebook to go through.
From my own experience, 1979, we had a player by the name of Kyle Woods from Dallas, Texas, get a head-to-head, helmet-to-helmet contact in a practice. And the two guys went down, and Kyle's neck was fractured, and he was a quadriplegic from that moment forward. He was 19 years old. I talk to every coach that I hear about and that I know about that has a catastrophic injury and on his team. And I always just make sure they know I'm here for them, that if there's any questions they have, because it's such a traumatic thing that everybody's going through, and the coach is the leader, and he has to handle working with the family. The youngster that was injured, he has to deal with the community. He has to deal with his own team and his coaches, who are many times are in traumatic shock when they see something like that happen.
David Edwards, first-team All-Area defensive back from Madison High School in San Antonio, Texas, was paralyzed on the field during the first-round playoff game in 2003.
Chris and David were like brothers.
I could tell, like, just little things that he was either cold or something, so I'd ask him, like, dude, are you cold? And he would, like, kind of do that, so I went and got a nurse, get him a blanket.
They got closer and closer, and David would come to the house and do some treatments here at the house.
Chris and Eddie, of course, helped me out a lot.
We would always go to the games every Friday night. We'd always invite everybody to go out, and David took to heart of what we were doing.
To that one big dream of walking again, so.
David, he had been fighting pneumonia. Pneumonia for our kids is something that we fear. With the level of injury that they have, they no longer have the chest muscles to cough, to get out all the fluid in their lungs. The congestion, it can be really tricky.
He was fighting pneumonia for about a year.
He had been in and out of the hospital fighting pneumonia several months in a row, and he gave it his best.
He'd gotten so weak from fighting it, being in the hospital, in and out of the hospital all the time, and it finally got the best of him, so.
When the Gridiron heroes get word that a player has been injured, Chris, Eddie, and a dedicated team pack up and find their way to them and begin the long, hard process of helping the fallen player and his family adjust to tragedy.
It's opening up your heart. I mean, it's taking all the pain that he's gone through and sharing it with someone else and helping that person get through their pain. That's certainly, it can't be easy. I mean, he's got to relive everything that he went through every time he's helping people out.
We know the questions the parents and they're gonna ask, so we don't concentrate on the injury part. We concentrate on how to help them.
because it's an incredible thing for a kid to be playing, and the next thing, not only is his life possibly changed forever, but his family's life has changed.
My dad gets calls 2, 3, 4 in the morning. How do you do this? What do I do when this happens?
It's absolutely unbelievable that he gives that much, and the strength that it must take for him to not only overcome what he's dealing with, but to go try to help others. I think he's unbelievable.
Every time you meet someone who opens their heart up that much, everyone around them open theirs up a little bit more too. It's just the way it goes.
Our door's open to anybody, and we, no matter what time of the day.
1, 2 o'clock in the morning, that's a downtime, that's a quiet time, and that's when you really start thinking and it all comes into play.
I mean, he and his dad were in Dallas just this past weekend, helping a kid who's just become part of the Gridiron Heroes, a new kid who went down from Pinkston High School in Dallas, went down 2 weeks ago. And Chris and his dad were immediately on the scene to help him and his family, which is what they do, help these people understand what it's going to be like and give them hope.
They help people go through all the stages of all the bureaucracy and everything that has to take place. You know, not just the emotional pain of everything, but the logistics of what you have to do to get through this stuff with all the paperwork and all that too. The question that you ask is answered as soon as you meet these guys. You know, you meet some people and they're givers, and these guys are givers.
It's very hard to comprehend how your life is going to change, and that was one of the things and one of the reasons behind Gridiron Heroes, is that when we were going through this, there was really no help. I mean, there was no guidance.
That's something that people don't realize. It's just a little change. Is the door wide enough to get a wheelchair in? What about the bathroom? Can he get into a bathroom?
Part of what we do with some of the families is to try to help them get through that first year, because you feel like you're all by yourself. When you have to understand, when someone suffers a spinal cord injury, there's breathing problems, there's urinary tract infections, loss of bowel and bladder control, autonomic dysreflexia, which affects your blood pressure. It's something that can be fatal. The change is dramatic. It's probably one of the most serious traumas that an individual can go through, because it affects your nervous system. And once that is affected, well, then everything else is affected along with it.
He's been playing football since he was 3. It was the first football game that I actually missed. I said, well, Jared, good luck and play hard. He was like, okay, Mom, and gave me a kiss. And about 7:30, 8 o'clock, I got a phone call saying that, you know, Jared had been injured, that they were about to rush him to Baylor. And when I got there, the trauma team had already made it, and they were, came out and explained to me what was going on. Said that he had broken his neck and that he was paralyzed from the neck down. So. The reality for the doctor says 0, but for me, I've seen my son walk several times in my dreams. And he was like, well, Mom, even if I don't get to walk again, I want to be an architect. So just have him to fix my hands. He said, have him to fix my hands because I want to be an architect, I can draw. He was like, save your money. I was like, okay, I'm gonna save my money. And I walked out of the room and I walked around the corner and I prayed and I cried and I prayed. He's my only son. My only son.
What spinal cord injury does is it disconnects your brain from the body below the injury site.
The things that guys in chairs worry about, it's been my experience, is will I ever walk again? Will I be able to have sex again? And what the heck has just happened to me?
I was unaware before I started making this program of how many high school kids across the country every year get injured and are paralyzed.
And about half of people with spinal cord injury get severe pain. And a lot of people don't realize this.
When you come back after a disability or trauma injury, and you say, hey, I'm just gonna run to the refrigerator and open it up and get me something to drink. You can't do it. Or I'm just gonna, hey, I'm gonna go run in here and go to the bathroom. And you can't get in your own bathroom in your own house because the door's not wide enough. And all of a sudden, this place that was safe for you has now become impossible.
You're gonna have to turn him every 2 hours. And if you don't do those pressure releasing methods, basically, you can get a big red spot that's a pressure sore. It can go all the way to the bone. Some start out at the size of an eraser, but get to the size of a grapefruit. And it can be very, very hard to get rid of.
If you don't take care of yourself very, very carefully, the likelihood that you might die of an infection or some complication of spinal cord injury is there. You have to be very careful.
The Gridiron Heroes work tirelessly to raise money through public outreach and events, like golf tournaments and this Hollywood-style benefit. Devin was paralyzed on the field in 2007. He had to take a Greyhound bus with his mother to one such event. But thanks to the Gridiron Heroes and their numerous, generous supporters, Devin and his mother would not have to take the bus home.
I accepted my role, and I thank God that I have my limbs and I have the ability to take care of him. So I thank God for my new role in my child's life. Amen. I had no support. My family doesn't live here, and strangers came and helped us, people we didn't know. So don't ever give up on hope. Stay positive, and things will change, and there's people that love others, just like Eddie and his family and other people. There's still people that really love people and care. But keep us in your prayers and Gridiron Heroes so they can continue, and hopefully they don't have to help too many more people.
But even as the Gridiron Heroes work tirelessly to help the fallen players off the field, tragedy continues to occur.
Paul Williams, play wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans. My brother Curtis, kind of get it choked up talking about it. He played at the University of Washington and ended up with his spinal cord injury, and I was actually at the game at Stanford. He went with his head down and kind of got rocked back a little bit. At first, I kind of laughed a little bit. I'm like, oh, Kurt's gonna be mad when he gets up from that because, you know, he's known as the big hitter. And he didn't get up. I just remember that feeling. It was kind of like I got sick to my stomach. He was in a coma for 2 weeks. He couldn't even breathe on his own. In the profession that I'm in, it's like every time you put on your cleats, every time you put on your pads, I think about my brother Curtis. So there's not a day that goes by where I don't think about that. And I mean, it's hard not to think about it, but it's something that happens. For better or for worse, football is an extremely violent game.
My name is David Deacon Jones, born in Eatonville, Florida in the year of our Lord, 1938. I rose out of the ashes of segregation into the best defensive end to ever play this game. I come to try to tear your damn head off. That is why I'm a lot reluctant about advising anybody to play this game. Because I know what my mental capacity was. I'd take you down in a minute. I put you in the hospital in a minute and didn't care nothing about it.
After the fact, we can all say, well, we didn't want anybody to get hurt. But, you know, that's probably a risk of playing a game. And I think people like it because they realize it is a gladiator sport. That's just the nature of the game.
Collisions happen fast. They are violent. The players are strong. They are quick. They're coming after you with a purpose.
Football is definitely faster today than it was 20 years ago. And so the collisions, I think, are bigger now than they were 20 years ago.
I've seen 70, 80-year-old grandmothers up in the stands saying, kill him, take his head off. Because that's what they come to see. But then they'll be the first ones when somebody goes down with a serious injury, the tear comes out of their eye. You understand what I mean? Because, you know, they play both sides of the fence.
It's like watching two donkeys fight over an apple, you know. We get serious about that football, you know. We're going to go there to put some hurt on somebody.
One of our coaches, Wilson Matthews, was asked to give the prayer. He said, protect these boys. Have them play as good as they can. Have them represent their state well. Amen. Now nail them to the cross.
Players on both teams have taken a knee.
Brings back the reality of the game itself, and that it is a collision sport and a violent sport.
He's talking to a family member.
It's a sick feeling in your stomach.
And these are hard words here. I can understand any parent out there who said, no, my kid ain't gonna play this game.
Football causes you to do very unnatural things. The natural thing is to get out from in front of 300 pounds, not get in front of it.
If you have improper technique, and you get your head caught down or to the side the wrong way, you have a very good chance of hurting yourself.
You think people go to the automobile races to watch cars circle the track? They go to watch the accident. So the more violent you make things, the more people come to participate.
I threw an interception and tackled a guy and broke my neck.
It was an option, and I went to go get the safety, so it was full speed. From me to the safety, and just went heads up, and my neck just went back and snapped, and then from there, I'm just gonna move.
It'll cause neurological damage. There'll be stretching, there may be bleeding, there's all sorts of bad, things that happen when, your brain sloshes into the side of your skull.
We're here as a unit to destroy this football team. Now, how you plan to destroy this football team? You know what you got to do. You got to out-hit them. You got to out-condition them. You got all these things to beat them at. And how you going to fall in love with the guy? It's like I see these guys circling with their prayer. Okay, you go right ahead. I'll give you 30 seconds to pray. Go right ahead. If you think prayer going to help you today, go right ahead. This ain't about no prayer here. If you ain't trained this week, I'm going to whip your brains out. You and your Bible.
So in terms of what happens when you have the head-to-head contact, two objects are coming at each other at opposite directions. It is like two cars coming together, head-on-head collision. It's bad to lead with your head, mainly because you're going to have a higher incidence of getting a brain injury from it. Now, if you are bigger and faster and you do hit harder, like a Mack truck hitting a Volkswagen, then you're not going to be injured. The Volkswagen's going to be smashed. So there's danger every way around, and if you have a grandson that's a Volkswagen, I wouldn't let him play the game.
Youngsters are more susceptible to injury. They recover more slowly, and forces that would not cause injury in an adult do cause injury in a youngster. So the young brain is more easily traumatized.
For years and years and years, football celebrated the guys who delivered the big hits, whether they made them legally or not, and whether they made them recklessly or not. What mattered is whether you left the guy inert on the ground after you tackled him. And they would teach you how to run, they would teach you how to pass, they would teach you how to throw, but they let you tackle however you wanted. Or they'd say, even worse, put a hat on him. That was the word, put a hat on him, put your hat on him, put your helmet in their gut, which was indescribably dangerous, both for your neck and for your head. And their proper tackling technique wasn't really taught very much.
What we've always tried to say is, see what you hit and hit what you see. And what that will do is will make you keep your head up. And most of the injuries, they occur from the surprise hits that occur when the head's in a vulnerable position.
The majority of concussions in football occur when there's head-to-head contact.
But the idea of repetitive concussions taking an overall toll is entirely different. The concern there is that if you get a concussion and you let it heal, and then you get another concussion and you let it heal, and another concussion and you let it heal, and you become more susceptible to them and you get 11 or 12, well, that's going to have a cumulative effect that you might not have had if you'd only had one concussion. Also, we're not even sure if you get lots of subconcussive blows, maybe 1,000 almost concussion blows, but not quite concussion blows, add up to have deleterious effects.
When I was young and played football briefly, there were a couple times where I'm sure that ringing sensation in my head and the needing to sit down for a while might have been a mild concussion, and at the time you didn't think anything of it. The awareness is improved today, but not by much.
And everybody says, oh, it's a tragic accident. It's tragic, but it's not an accident. If it doesn't change, the game's going to die at the roots because nobody's intelligence is going to let their kids play. And that's the problem. Coaches don't have coaches. There's no system of training that forces them to do what's best for the kids.
Watch the hit by Cochran. Oh, you've got to eject the Aaron Cochran. That is targeting. He drops his head, he launches, and it moves up into the head of air. I cannot believe Cochran was not called for targeting and not only ejected from this game, but then he would be ejected for the first half of the second.
And he can barely stand up now.
Boy, they've just got to get him out of the ball game.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. He's got to come out.
Shane Morris cannot be going back into this game. This young man looked groggy after that hit. He's being put back on the field. He can barely stand up. This is not good player management. We've talked about player safety in this game. Guys getting hit in the head. This is atrocious to me. This is not good player management and player safety by Michigan.
One of the mantras that people have talked about who've been very serious about this issue for some time is, when in doubt, you sit it out. Because this is not the sort of thing you want to take a chance with. If somebody takes a second hit after suffering a concussion, we're not talking about just being out for a few seconds. We're talking about having a catastrophic brain injury, even dying from that. That's second impact syndrome, and that's exactly what you're trying to prevent. And I think that they fell down on the job when it came to this particular player.
Second impact syndrome and the effect of cumulative hits over time are entirely different things. Second impact syndrome takes place in rare cases where a concussion has not healed, and then another hit, even a relatively minor one, causes a cascade of just terrible, terrible events inside the brain that cause the brain inside the skull to swell. And it swells so much that it tries to escape from the skull. And of course it can't. It can't go anywhere. And you die. It's a very quick death. The cumulative effect of concussions can be more of a slow one over decades.
There are people that think that their kid's going to get a scholarship. They think that their kid may play pro football. It's not going to happen. 85% of youth football players don't even play high school football. 0.1% of everybody that wants to play pro football play pro football. 0.1%. And there's a 3.5-year career. That's not a career. That's not even a good temp job. 3.5 years is nothing. So you're going to have a lifelong of injuries for something that's not even going to happen for you.
I'm also a parent, and so I obviously have a passion for this area that transcends just the medical issues. We're trying to make sports safer for youngsters. We're trying to allow youngsters to enjoy sports, but have no long-term ramifications or any injuries coming out of those sports.
Is the game of football too violent? Are the risks just too high? Or should we instead pledge to honor and support those who have given their bodies to the game, and understand that all things, even things that are supposed to be pure and good, come with risk? Skiing, hockey, soccer, baseball, they all have risk. But while we as adults and parents have a responsibility to make sure these games are as safe as possible for our children, many argue the games themselves should not be condemned, that too much good comes from sports.
Even when I was laying up in the hospital bed, I was still watching football.
I've always loved football and will continue to love football.
Football's a great game for contact and the physical kind of activity that young men need.
It builds personalities, builds strength, builds character. It's a wonderful game.
We still love the game of football. And I try to always, when I address coaches and parents, to make sure they understand that we're not out to deter anyone from playing ball.
Give me everything I had as a player, assistant coach, head coach. So I love the game of football.
I don't think the sun comes up and ends with the game of football, although I own the Dallas Cowboys. But I do know that it has served young people and been an inspiration and been a training ground for millions of young people over many, many years.
For kids starting out who are playing football, is they're going to learn a lot about teamwork. They're going to learn a lot about organization. They're going to learn that, hey, if I'm going to do this, I'm a part of a bigger picture. I'm one of 11 guys.
And that's what comes out of the game. Nobody remember how much money they made from year to year. But you remember those different times that you were with this group of guys. And it's a part, you want your kid to be a part of the great game.
You can develop a indifference to pain, or you can develop a playing through being tired. And on the way, you really call on a lot of character. Now, I've heard it said, character is not developed by football or sports, it's just called upon. I disagree with that.
And obviously there's a huge public health interest in making sure that people are participating in sports. But sports is also just fundamental to who we are as Americans and our culture. We're competitive, we're driven, and sports teaches us about teamwork and hard work and what it takes to succeed, not just on the field, but in life.
I know that the value of our game outweighs, the chance that one would have to become injured. But it is my responsibility and our coach's responsibility and every stakeholder in the game of football to do everything in our power to make this game as safe as it can possibly be. And if we do that, then we have enhanced opportunities of countless thousands of young people to have the same opportunity to learn from men that they could love and respect, not only how to win, but how to handle losing, and to develop yourself in an environment, a team environment that creates leadership, it creates initiative, it fosters the development of the person within that environment. Yeah, you bet I recommend football.
You have to have blind faith to play football, and you coach, and you have to have a blind faith that if you'll do as instructed, that while initially it's not working, it will work. And personally, I've called on it a lot, way beyond football.
I think the soul of football is camaraderie. That's why if you look at the Ivy League schools, they don't give scholarships. The guys have to pay their own way. They pay $50,000, but you have so many players try out for their freshman football team, all as walk-ons. And the reason is the guys that you meet when you're a freshman football player are guys that you're going to probably know the rest of your life. And it's that camaraderie about the game that is such a draw.
Is there a way to play football more safely, to lower the probability of spinal cord and brain injury?
Right now, we need to make effective steps that make the game as safe as possible so that we can enjoy it, because it is America's game.
A lot of these injuries are led to by leading with one's head. And if you do that, you're putting yourself at risk. There's no question about that.
In making a proper tackle, it should be made with the hands, it should be made with the body, and a large use of the shoulders. The hands should never be behind the head. The head should never be lowered. The head should never be the initial point of contact.
And you hit that person with the top of your head, your spine will break.
Most spinal cord injuries in football occur in the act of tackling, about 2/3 of them, and tackling improperly. Tackling with a head down in what we call the axial load position, taking the brunt of the blow to the vertex of the head.
When this happens, either bone or disc is retropulsed into the spinal cord.
And the helmet is not a weapon, it's a protection.
But as far as the forces go, if you hit someone with your head, you are more likely to make your head stop quickly. You are also very likely to make the other guy's head go whoosh, and it's going to create large accelerations and decelerations of your head, but your brain ain't going to know it, and it's going to go.
When you have people striking with their head and you have two helmets colliding, something's got to give.
Your head's going to stop, and it's going to stop fast. Your skull is going to stop. Boom!
The impact causes a violent shaking of the brain inside the skull.
I've had 4 hip replacements. I need a shoulder replaced. I don't know where my mind will be in 10 years. I really don't. But I think one of the main concerns of the people in the game has to be the safety of the players.
Using the helmet as the initial point of contact in blocking and tackling works in the shorthand for that particular play, effectively achieving what you want. But it is putting your head and your neck at greater risk of long-term injury. Chronic traumatic encephalopathy is a progressive, degenerative neurological condition, in many ways analogous to Alzheimer's disease, although trauma is what sets it up. And it leads to a triad of progressive mental deterioration, starting with recent memory and progressive over time to frank dementia. It involves also loss of impulse control and a very high incidence of depression. Forever, youngsters have emulated those that play the sports at the highest level.
And Al, there was plenty of time to react on that one. That is awful. That's how people get seriously hurt in this game.
Kids see that and they think because it's exciting, that's who they want to be. That's how they want to tackle. And we fight that every day. And we get kids that try to emulate, that action. It's a battle. It's a battle, and it's hard to explain to them that this guy who's in the pros that should know everything there is to know about hitting, that he doesn't. The payoff is you got a kid that tackles safely, and he's going to have a healthy life after football. Some people don't.
Now the helmet protects you enough where you can use your head as a weapon. And people did. You know why? Because it worked. But it came with a cost that a lot of people didn't recognize until it was too late. And we're now seeing that cost manifest itself in the cognitive impairment and other problems that older football players are experiencing, and some younger ones.
As a player, you just have to be taught that here are the fundamentals. This is what I need to do when I'm tackling somebody or blocking somebody or being blocked.
You still see pros to this day dropping their heads, tackling incorrectly, eyes to the ground, because that's the way they were taught. When they were youth and in high school, that's how they were taught. And these youth players, they look up to professional athletes. That's who they want to be. Their dream goal at this youth football level is to be in the NFL. So they're going to want to do what that NFL player does.
When you think about it, kids are putting on pads and tackling as young as 7 years old. Those are babies. Those are people's babies. They're trusting you as a coach to do the right thing.
And I think that's the way coaches feel. We have a huge responsibility to those that we teach and coach. That's a great responsibility to teach them the right things, the right way, to set the right example.
I think anything you can do within the rules to encourage safety of the players is encouraged. I think we have to do whatever you can do in that area. I think it's essential that this happens. If this doesn't happen, we're going to continue to have a number of injuries that will continue to mount, where people are going to say, parents are going to say, well, my second thoughts about letting my children play the game.
Horrible stuff happens when safety goes out the window when it comes to tackling.
Nobody wants to go through life paralyzed, and these things can happen if you do things the wrong way.
So for me, where I feel like I bottomed out was once I got home, 6 months to a year after, my initial injury, and tried to think I was going to come home and reclaim my life the way that it was before. And it wasn't. And there wasn't anything anyone could do about it.
Football is going to have to adapt to recent discoveries as to the dangers of head injuries, concussions, and other things that take place on football fields.
A high school player on Long Island, New York, suffered a head injury yesterday and died. He is the third high school player to die in the past week.
There's been a lot of talk about concussions in the last couple of years, and I don't think that's going away anytime soon. I think we're just starting to find out more about them. And it's scary. It is scary. But for me, the damage is done.
The head injuries among amateurs are not rare. All football players, including high schoolers, have a 75% chance of suffering a concussion. Between 136,000 and 300,000 sustain one each year.
I'm hoping that I'm going to be the exception and don't have residual effects. And then I think, well, you played 20 years. I mean, you played. You were not on the team. You played for 20 years, and so it's great, but what have you done long term? I don't know.
Now there are studies being done on the brains of former NFL players looking at advanced dementia. What they show is 3 times the rate of depression, 5 times the rate of dementia in people who have 3 concussions or more.
These brown blotches mark the accumulation of tau protein, an abnormal substance that can emerge within the brain after repeated blows to the head.
We're going to turn now to the alarming discovery providing some answers to the questions surrounding the suicide of NFL great and father of 4, Junior Seau.
The night before he shocked everyone by shooting himself, Seau sent out this short phone text of love.
And what did he say?
Just 3 words. I love you.
A gunshot to the chest. Some speculating he knew his brain needed to be preserved for examination. ABC News and ESPN have learned exclusively that Seau's brain showed signs of CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, the concussion-related injury that is at the center of today's football safety controversy.
A shocking suicide by a former NFL player draws attention to the hard-hitting game of football. Former Chicago Bears safety Dave Duerson was found dead last Thursday. He shot himself in the chest because he told family members he wanted doctors to study his brain.
He left a note and text message asking for his brain to be studied, reading, "Please see that my brain is given to the NFL's brain bank."
He shot himself in the chest as well. It's a very unusual way, a rare way for one to commit suicide, and it's just hard to talk about. But in Duerson's case, he had left that note that Paul was sort of alluding to, saying, "I shot myself in the chest. I'd like my brain to be studied." Duerson's brain was studied, and in fact, he did have exactly what he was concerned about.
It is with mixed emotions that my family and I stand before you today. It is my greatest hope that his death will not be in vain, and that through this research, his legacy will live on, and that others will not have to suffer in the same manner.
From the ultimate vision of speed, strength, and health, to severe mental and physical disability. In the blink of an eye or the course of a career, what can be done?
I think it would be a great thing to have these clinics put on by college, pro, high school coaches where they teach kids to tackle.
I think by emphasizing the proper technique, starting with young kids, the technique of never using your head as a projectile, never hitting with your head down, I think if we're able to keep emphasizing that, then I think we'll make a big difference.
I'm not saying I would have gotten hurt or not. I'm just saying that if a lot of kids knew the proper way to tackle, then that would help prevent a lot more injuries. Not just neck injuries, but like also concussions too, because a lot of kids just tackle with their head.
There is one man, Coach Bobby Hosea, a former UCLA football player who runs camps that teach one thing and one thing only: how to tackle more safely.
There's this fellow in California named Bobby Hosea who has all but given his life to teaching kids how to tackle more safely so that football can continue in much the same way it always has, with kids getting hurt less often by keeping their head up and out of the tackle.
Injuries that occur to the spinal cord, injuries to the neck, or concussions all come from hitting with your head.
See, I ain't never hit nobody with my head. I ain't putting my head in there. That's what you should teach your kid. Watch the head, keep that head up. That's what you teach him.
I think that's essential that they teach it that way. And if they can teach keeping the head out of it, or keeping the head up, like we say, keep the head up, I think you're going to have a heck of a lot less concussions and neck injuries.
This game is not about destruction. This game is about building character, physical fitness, toughness, intestinal fortitude, all those things.
Take it for a ride now. Go for a ride. Get the air.
The football players are made. They're not born. This is an acquired skill. This is an acquired knowledge. Hips control the head, but the arms accelerate the hips. And so when the hips accelerate, the head will accelerate. It'll come up and away from the ball carrier. And once they learn that, now there's no longer any fear.
He teaches how to tackle and dip and rip.
Not to use my head in the tackle.
Keep your head up so you don't break your neck.
Other kids should come to this camp because you can tackle correctly so you won't get a brain injury in football.
I work at a high school, so I watch the high school kids, and I kind of ask them, like, how do you tackle? And they still think, you know, it's like head first.
Where'd the head go?
Oh.
Did it go to the side?
No.
Did it go down?
No.
Where do we want the head to go every single time? Up.
In the last 20 plus years, good coaches, well-intentioned coaches, have been just saying, keep your head up. Just saying, keep your head up isn't enough. There's a distinct difference between telling a player, keep your head up, versus going through a comprehensive tackle program that will instill muscle memory. They need to go to mandatory tackle camps, so when it comes game time, when it comes crunch time, they don't need to think about, oh, I need to keep my head up. They just do it.
There should be clinics to teach them to tackle, especially at the young ages, grade school, high school, and well, I'll tell you right now, you don't practice tackling in the NFL. That's a foregone conclusion that you know how to tackle when you get there. And you're going to get the guy on the ground any way you can. And I play with a lot of players who got the guy on the ground any way they could.
Have you ever walked onto the field and seen a kid laying there motionless? You know, have you ever tried to help a kid up and he's dizzy from contact and he's throwing up because his concussion's already setting in? Have you ever seen or heard about a kid breaking his neck and not being able to move? He's paralyzed, or even worse, deaf, because those things happen. And they happen because people are either not informed or they're ignorant and they're stubborn and they don't want to change anything. And that is a problem. And until we get something in place, such as Bobby's program, it's going to continue.
The only way it can be fixed is if there's a mandatory tackle training curriculum.
It's not about anything but keeping these kids safe and making sure that when they're older, that they look back on this and this was a positive experience and that they're healthy and they feel good and they love football.
But until the day comes when brain and spinal cord injuries are eliminated from the field completely, people like Cody Williams and his family will need the help of the Gridiron heroes.
I could barely breathe. All I could do was blink. That's the only movement I had.
I was always the first one at the game, one of the first people at the game, because I wanted to get the best seat to see him come out.
I just saw black and then I just fell and couldn't feel anything.
You want to hug him and make everything better, and I couldn't touch him.
Because I was crying on the field, because I just didn't know what was going on. But then it was kind of hard to breathe and stuff, so it was kind of hard to cry. So I just stopped crying. But they were like, you have like a really serious break in your neck and everything. And I was just like, I was like in shock. I never thought that would happen, but.
The Gridiron Heroes reached out to me when Cody was in ICU.
One by one we file along. We file along to the beat of the drum. The beat of the drum keeps the spirit alive.
How you doing, man? Chris.
Cody.
Good to meet you.
How you doing, Cody? I'm Eddie. Good to meet you. I gave hugs. All right. Good to see you.
The beat of the drum keeps the spirit alive. The spirit's alive till the day that you
There's a chance I could be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life, but I believe I'll walk again. I just have a feeling.
You learn how to fly in a violent wind. Oh, in a violent wind, you'll learn who you have been.
Cody's definitely very competitive by nature. Football is not a game where you just sit out and wait on the sidelines for things to happen.
What we learn in football, you never give up, right? The never quit attitude. And so we instill that with the injury, that we're not going to give up. For some reason in my dream, I'm never in a wheelchair. All my dreams are like I was before. Never in a wheelchair, but there are times that, in a way, the wheelchair will be with me. Like I had one dream where I was training for something and I would sling my wheelchair on the back and run up a hill.
I've dreamed that like I was at school again walking. I've dreamed I was playing football again. I've had all like good dreams in that. Well, it's been a little over 2 years since my injury, and I can walk on a treadmill with a harness on it. I'm able to walk on a walker about 40 feet now.
And now, after years of work, the Gridiron Heroes find themselves recognized in a way they could never have dreamed possible.
Monday, December 12th.
Tonight we celebrate CNN Heroes.
See the top 10 honorees in Los Angeles.
Eddie Canales and the Gridiron Heroes have been nominated for their work as one of CNN's top 10 Heroes of the Year. The star-studded awards ceremony would be held in Los Angeles. But first, the Canales family would spend time with their friends and supporters at a surprise party in the Hollywood Hills.
It's been neat to meet the other honorees. It's also very humbling. We all have our passion for the organizations that we're working for, but we all have something in common, is that we're reaching out to our fellow human beings and trying to make a difference and change lives. We're hoping that what eventually will come out of this is that more and more of the people in the football community that actually love the game, embrace the game, and support the game can see what we do and how we affect the lives of these young men, and that we may be able to get the help from within the governing bodies of football, from the football community in general, so that we can make a big difference in these young men's lives.
And now the moment had arrived. It was time to hit the red carpet.
Don't stop. I lose you with my eyes to open. I know I'll have enough. By the time the sunrise creeps on through, we know you're right here by my side.
I'm very excited to learn more about Eddie Canales and his son Chris.
Hi, this is Rick Fox here at the CNN Heroes Award, celebrating many heroes, but one in particular, Eddie Canales and his son Chris.
I'm Captain Sully Sullenberger, and I'm here to hear amazing stories, including those of Eddie Canales and others.
Hi, I'm Holly Robinson Peete, and I want to give a special shout out of support to Eddie Canales, Gridiron Heroes, and to his very brave son Chris.
I think Eddie Canales and the Gridiron Heroes absolutely sum up what CNN Heroes is all about.
Hey, this is a shout out to Eddie Canales and his son Chris from the Gridiron Heroes. Well done, congratulations, keep it going.
To be out here, it's come full circle for us, and to get this much attention, walk the red carpet, to bring our cause out to the forefront, it's just been awesome.
I'm grateful and I'm blessed to have them in my life. For me, they are my heroes. I look up to Eddie. Words can't explain.
To have the honor of being able to present him tonight, to have the honor of having a chance to hang out with their family and get to know what they're all about was, it means a lot to me.
We're glad to be here and supporting him and be on his side. We're on his team tonight. So we're doing, Chris is the quarterback tonight.
That's what I noticed with Chris, is that he's not going to allow what's happened to him to hold him down. He's going to use that tragedy and use it to try to impact other people. Yeah.
Chris is a better man now than he ever was because of what he's able to do now and because of the courage that he had to say, you know what, this is a catastrophe that I suffered, but I'll live through it again and again and again just to make sure that all these other kids who suffer the same injury have someone there for them, have someone around them.
For me, it's the hard work I put into getting my mobility back, getting to move my arms, and just having a good spirit and a good attitude about my injury. And then to be here now is just totally awesome.
We cheered these young men on the football field. Let's make sure we don't forget them now. Thank you very much.
The main thing I would tell Chris is that I'm proud of what he's done to help other people that have gone through what he's gone through. And I think he's showing them not only that they can overcome it, but that they can achieve in their life.
You never know what's going to happen down the road. Helping the other guys and getting to this point where I don't really think about myself anymore. I think about others, and for me, I tell my story, but I never think about myself. It's not about me anymore.
The Gridiron Heroes didn't win that night. They didn't have to. They had already won. Many more, thousands of people and growing, are made aware of safer ways to play the game. Because, like Chris and Eddie, the hope is for the game to go on and stay deeply embedded into the fiber of America.
So you